What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I'm your host, Pat Dineen, and this is my review of AEW Wrestledream that, much like AEW Collision this past Saturday, took place in Seattle, Washington at the Climate Pledge Arena. This was an amazing show, and let me just start off by saying if you love professional wrestling, it was a great weekend. You had NXT No Mercy, who put on a great 7-match card Saturday night. And if you watched AEW Wrestledream the next night, Sunday night, again, this was a 14-match card, 10 on the main, 4 on the pre-show, or what they refer to as 0 hour. Very, 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 I cannot emphasize it enough, good. This was a great show. I'm not sure if they're going to make this an annual thing, this Wrestledream, if they're going to do it every October, much like all their other pay-per-views, like they kept Forbidden Door. And like Tony Khan says, he's going to bring All In back next August to London specifically, yet again. So maybe Wrestledream will be a staple of their pay-per-view schedule. I mean, if that is the case, that would mean that they went from their usual 4 pay-per-views every year to now 7, right? You have your Core 4 and Revolution, Double or Nothing. You have All Out and Full Gear. Then they added Forbidden Door, brought back All In. That pretty much started this whole revolution of AEW and its existence. And now we have Wrestledream. So that'll be very good if this is the 7th pay-per-view. If they want to make 12 and have one every month, which they may do, like I said on the last episode of AEW, my last review, that they are going to be having a streaming deal with Max coming up early 2024, I believe. So I think that they're going to want AEW to lean into having their monthly pay-per-view. So if that's the case, they have 7, just need to add 5 more. That is quite a bit, but I'm also okay with that. So with that being said, again, at the Climate Pledge Arena, Seattle, Washington, this was a tribute show in honor of the New Japan Pro Wrestling founder, Antonio Inoki, who passed away a year to the day. So again, the 1-year anniversary of his death. The event began with a 10-bell salute in honor of Inoki. Out there, we had Tony Khan, the owner of CEO of All Elite Wrestling. And during the 0 hour at the very start, I want to say, I know it started at 6:30 with Renee Paquette and company, but I believe at 7 they started off with Tony Khan, Rocky Romero, Katsuyori Shibata, the current Ring of Honor Pure Champion. And then we got to see 2 grandsons of the late Antonio Inoki. I want to get their names correct here. We have Naoto and Hiroto that were there. So that was very classy of Tony Khan, as he always is. Both of whom Rocky Romero presented a bouquet of flowers after doing the whole tribute and the bell salute. Tony Khan, say what you want about him. He loves professional wrestling. Yeah, like anyone else, he has his, things he needs to work on. But as far as story is concerned and stuff, but he has put on so many great dream matches for us fans and for the talent themselves over the last 4 years. It's been truly amazing to see. So, I do think Wrestledream will now become an annual staple in their pay-per-view schedule. Of course, during this whole bit, TNT champion Christian Cage is usually not far behind when it has to do with deceased fathers or grandfathers. I can't believe, but I also can believe that they inserted him in backstage looking at the monitor in disgust as his current character, this evil villain, Christian Cage, but hilarious and hysterical at the same time, kind of looked at, at the grandsons and the whole honoring of Inoki. Again, Christian Cage just notorious, talking about the deceased fathers specifically. So they panned to him. And I know in the media scrum afterwards, Tony Khan asked Christian about it as well. So they brought that up more than once. So the way this started off, again, little after 7 p.m. after they did this whole bit, this awesome, classy bit for Inoki, it started off with an 8-person mixed tag team match. We had Shane Taylor Promotions, Taylor, Lee Moriarty, Diamante, and Mercedes Martinez going up against Satoshi, Kojima, Keith Lee, Athena, the current Ring of Honor Women's Champion, and Billie Starkz. This was a good one. This was really good, and the right team won, in my opinion. Satoshi Kojima connected with a lariat to Lee Moriarty. Very firm lariat. We know this guy. He's a legend, right? They get the win, and in this mixed tag team match was a nice opener for what it was worth. Match number 2, I'm going to breeze through these because, again, these were just, not to make light of it, but these were just pre-show matches. We have a lot more to get to. After these 4, we have 10 on the main card. Match 2, Josh Barnett versus Claudio Castagnoli. Now, again, I don't know a whole hell of a lot about Josh Barnett. I know his resume speaks for itself. He made his way out with Jon Moxley, Claudio, which was good to see Moxley after the last week and a half, after that concussion it seemed he suffered against Rey Fenix, where he was supposed to retain. We know by now that whole deal with the International Championship. But anyway, Moxley made his way out. Good to see him. He was on commentary. And Excalibur went on to say Barnett was handpicked by Inoki to be the face of American Mixed Martial Arts. So that's also his significance, being on this pay-per-view in some respect. Also a hometown guy from Seattle, Washington. There are so many people on this card from Washington. It was good to see. Even Aubrey Edwards, the referee, right? Swerve, Darby, who else? Brian Danielson, and so on, all from Washington area. So Barnett, he is a former UFC heavyweight champion, also the youngest UFC heavyweight champion in the history. 24 years old, he won that title. And Moxley even went on to elaborate on the whole bit. Moxley said that Barnett has been a secret weapon for him the past few years, training with him in Japan and so on. Mox also said Barnett took this match because he feels Claudio could be even greater than he already is. So he sees greatness in Claudio and sees that he could up the ante, even though, he's a two-time Ring of Honor world champion and so on. So I actually really enjoyed Jon Moxley on commentary. This was not the only time we saw him. I thought we might just see him for this match. Him being part of the Blackpool Combat Club with Claudio, having the rapport, as he told us, with Josh Barnett. But we saw him two other times for two more Blackpool Combat Club matches, being Wheeler Yuta. And then after that, ironically enough, was the Bryan Danielson-Zack Sabre match. So we would hear from Moxley more on commentary. He was funny. Later on, he told us that he got fined quite a bit for, the foul language and things he said on commentary. But I don't think he learned during match 2 or 3, because I think he had a few more expletives as time wore on as well. So somehow Claudio was able to swing around the 250-pound Josh Barnett. I know Claudio's done this amazing feat before. We know he's incredibly strong, much stronger than he even looks. So he did that. Claudio was able to squeak out a victory against Barnett as well, rolling him up. Now, post-match, Barnett got on the microphone and says, look, he showed up with no expectations for Claudio Castagnoli, but approves. And he also went on to say some very nice words and said Antonio Inoki would also approve as well. So he also went on to say a lot of other very nice things to Claudio, which Claudio I know deeply appreciated post-match. He says, I am proud of you, Claudio, but this is not over. So he says, he didn't say when, didn't say where, but he said they will meet again. So he basically said, stay on your A game and keep pushing it to the limit. I know you have greatness in you, and which I do agree. Claudio is no slouch. Claudio does give his all. I wish Claudio would take a little more command and confidence in what he does, because he is better than I think he even knows himself to be. I also wish he was a little better on the microphone, but I mean, who am I to say? Claudio speaks like 6 different languages. Claudio, again, though, this was really good. He gets on the mic as well afterwards and says, back to Josh Barnett, he says, anytime, any place. And so the two exchanged some nice pleasantries, and a great moment between Barnett and Claudio to conclude match 2 of 4 for this 0 hour. So match 3, we had another Seattle native. You're going to hear me saying this a lot throughout the show. Nick Wayne going up against Luchasaurus. Now, I think we all knew that Luchasaurus would easily dominate Nick Wayne. Nick Wayne's very talented. What is he, 18, not even 19 years old yet? Signed to AEW earlier in the year. And, he's going to have a very promising future and career, regardless where he ends up. If he stays in AEW for his whole tenure or wherever he bounces around to, he's going to be a household name for sure, sooner than later. Already is, pretty much. He's going to win multiple championships. And but look, it takes about 5 or 6 Nick Waynes size-wise to make one Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus is just, he is just not just a big guy. He is all muscle. He is so damn strong. Early on, we saw a brutal chokeslam to Nick Wayne onto the ring apron. I thought he might have been done there. But what was even crazier about this whole spot is Luchasaurus just picked him up like a rag doll and again chokeslammed him on the apron. And Luchasaurus did that from inside the ring and just hoisted him right over like he was nothing. So that looked rough. Then Luchasaurus tossed him head first into the barricade right in front of his mom. So, Luchasaurus, being that he plays the role of a dinosaur, I guess you could say, didn't have anything to say verbally to his mom. She said a few things to Luchasaurus, that's for sure. But he just gave her a couple stares and let his actions do the talking throughout the course of this match. Luchasaurus, to nobody's surprise, ended up getting the victory. I mean, hey, at least Nick Wayne got the opportunity on a big stage here at Wrestledream in his hometown. And being that he just graduated high school a couple months prior, I'd say that's pretty good. And, Wayne is just so talented. Again, bright future. But size and strength, that differential was way too much for him, but we knew that going in, so this is nothing new. Going on to the final match of the 0 hour before we get to the 8 p.m. mark here. AEW World Trios Championships were defended on the 0 hour. We had the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass going up against TMDK. I believe that's the Mighty Don't Kneel, something like that. I believe that's what the acronym stands for. I'm going to jump right to the end here because we have a ton to get to, and I mean that. Bowens hit Bad Dude Tito with the arrival, followed by a mic drop by Max Caster. And still, your Trios champions, to no surprise, the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass. I believe they've been Trios champs, 36, 37 days ever since defeating the House of Black at All In London. So that was the pre-show. The 0 hour concludes there. So now we're going to make our way over to the main card of AEW Wrestledream. This was a 10-match card, starting off with the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships being defended in a 2-on-1 handicap match. Of course, we all know by now, at Dynamite Grand Slam a week and a half ago in Queens, New York, Adam Cole made that leap off the ramp to the outside where he broke his ankle in 3 places. So speedy recovery to one Adam Cole. Some people still think it's a work. I mean, I don't think so. Maybe it is. Maybe it's some elaborate work that they're all in on, including his significant other, Britt Baker, who posted the X-ray and the swelling of it immediately after he announced the injury last week on Dynamite. So, hey, we'll see, but I'm pretty sure it's legit. Anyway, 2-on-1 match now, being that Cole could not go, with MJF going up against Vincent and Dutch of the Righteous. And MJF comes out. He asks them to cut his music at the very start. He says someone stole his mask out of his bag, alluding to the attack Wednesday night that ended AEW Dynamite with Jay White. Now, as MJF was making his way to the ring, he was on the microphone telling the Righteous what he was going to do to them. Funny as usual. When is he? He's never short of words, MJF, that's for sure. So in the early going, they were taking it to MJF. I mean, what did we really expect? It's a numbers game, an advantage here for sure for the Righteous. But somehow, Max, he hung in there. As Vincent was going to hit Max with a steel chair, MJF got Vincent by the balls, literally, squeezing him while the referee was not paying attention. Referee turned back around, MJF dropped back to the mat, and it looked as if Vincent had struck him with the steel chair. MJF dropped back to the mat, and Vincent was still holding the chair, pretty much frozen because of what just took place. The last 30 seconds or so, it seemed. The referee again thought he struck MJF. And suddenly MJF rolled up Vincent, but to no avail. Following that, MJF did his promise while he was walking down the ramp and said that he would pick up Dutch and body slam him. And that's exactly what happened. He picked up Dutch, which is got to be twice his size at minimum, maybe 3 times. And he impressively picked Dutch up, slammed him to the ground. As Taz went on to say, the slam that shook Seattle, that's for sure. Shortly thereafter, he went ahead with his signature kangaroo kick to both members of the Righteous. And wrapping it up and putting a bow on it here, MJF with his feet on the ropes was able to secure a pinfall on Dutch to retain those Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships. As he promised Adam Cole, he's off to a good start. He says, whenever you're back, buddy, these Ring of Honor Tag Team titles, I know how much they mean to you. They'll be here waiting for you. So we'll see if that happens, see if that's a reality. If Cole's out with an ankle injury, or a broken ankle nonetheless, in 3 spots, I highly doubt MJF's going to be able to hold on to those tag titles for that entire time, even if he's pulling, some cheating tactics at the end of a match, like putting your feet on the rope and the referee doesn't notice, right? Bryce Remsburg didn't notice until it was too late. And then he looked back like, hey, wait, what happened? He was, at an incline while pinning him. I don't know how he didn't see that. But anyway, we'll see how long this lasts going forward. So that was the first match of the main card. Going to the next here, we had Eddie Kingston defending both of his New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Openweight Championships, as well as his Ring of Honor World Championship against Katsuyori Shibata, who has been the Ring of Honor Pure Champion for 150 plus days at this moment in time. These two, they gave each other all they had, using everything in their repertoire, that's for sure. Eddie Kingston found a way to retain his championships. Power bomb followed by the pin post-match. Both men embraced. Major show respect between the two, holding up one another's hands in front of the audience. But Kingston made sure Katsuyori Shibata got his moment there. He rolled out of the ring out of respect. Eddie Kingston, man, as much as he could talk crap and back it up, that's for sure. At the end of the day, he is a respectful dude to those he believes deserves it. I don't think he would do this for Claudio, but he certainly did it for Shibata here. So he rolled out of the ring. And Katsuyori Shibata, got to hear his theme music in the center of that ring, pretty much bowed to the audience, sign of appreciation as they applauded him. And Shibata spent the vast majority of his pro wrestling career with New Japan Pro Wrestling, so I get it, being that, this show in honor of Inoki, the founder of New Japan. And so that was very nice to see, even in a losing effort, Eddie Kingston showing that sign of respect to Shibata. But this was a great match. These two went back and forth. Eddie Kingston, would say, as tough as you could bring it. He even pulled down his singlet at one point and said, chop me, even harder, bring it. And he ended up, Shibata at that point had ended up kicking Kingston to the mat. But Kingston found a way to get it done, and I thought he would. It's a little early on, a little premature for him to lose that Ring of Honor championship that he just won 2 weeks ago. I could see him losing the Strong championship, the Openweight, if it was just for that. But being that both were on the line, I said there was no way that Kingston could be losing this soon. Then next up, we had a TBS Championship match. Julia Hart, the undefeated, 28-0 since April 25th, 2022. Coming out with Brody King versus champion Kris Statlander. Again, the last person that defeated Julia Hart April 25th, 2022 was Kris Statlander on an episode, I believe, of AEW Elevation. So here we are with these two. Hell of a fight between these ladies. Julia Hart brought it. She was ready to exact some revenge on Kris Statlander. Been waiting for this opportunity for quite a while. Statlander's been TBS champion since Double or Nothing. So what are we talking here? The better part of 4+ months, 5 months. And mid-match, it looked like Julia Hart was planning on hitting Stat with the Black Mist. She would roll to the outside prior, while Kris Statlander was having a little bit of a moment with Brody King on the opposite side of the ring. But as Julia Hart made her way back in, unfortunately for her, Kris slapped it right out of her, literally, the Black Mist. So that didn't work out for her. She had to pull out some more tricks from up her sleeve. Julia Hart, she fought her hardest. She really did. Several attempts to put Kris Statlander away. Kris, bottom line is she was just too much for her. When all was said and done, we got a pile driver followed by her finisher. I believe it's called the Big Bang Theory for the win. Now, I did think they were going to put the title on Julia Hart. I want to say it was a little premature if that's what they were going to do. I mean, look, if we're doing a most improved award for the last year, Julia Hart gets it hands down. Presentation, improvement in the ring, and so on. But I did think the right choice was to keep the TBS Championship on Kris Statlander. That's exactly what they did. So I'm not mad at that outcome at all. I thought they were going to, pull the trigger and keep her going with this undefeated streak and TBS champion. But I'm glad they're not doing it just yet. Now, will Julia Hart be the one to eventually dethrone Kris Statlander? I could also see that down the road, whether it's, a month from now, 3 months from now. I could see that happening. But we'll see. That remains to be seen. This is a pretty good match, though. I enjoyed it overall. And they went on to say that, Kris Statlander, 15-0 this year, ever since returning at Double or Nothing, defeating Jade Cargill, who's now with WWE, of course, defeating Jade Cargill, handing Jade Cargill her only 2 losses, by the way, during her time in AEW. And good for Stat, man. Keep it going. Keep that momentum going. It's nice to see. Again, she can hang with the best of them, women and men, really. So this next match was a 4-way tag team match for a future AEW World Tag Team title opportunity. We had the Guns, the Lucha Bros, the Young Bucks versus Orange Cassidy and Hook. So we have 3 sets of real-life brothers here in the Guns, Lucha Bros, and the Young Bucks. And then we have Orange Cassidy and Hook, which, look, Orange Cassidy being from Jersey, Hook being from New York. We had a little Jersey-New York connection here, so that they're brothers into itself there. Early on in this match, though, the AEW International Champion Rey Fenix was nursing a shoulder injury. I don't know if that was from 2 weeks ago when he defeated Moxley in that match at Grand Slam. I do think it was from around that time. So, unfortunately, he had a very early exit from this match, because after that, it was noticeable in the early going. He tagged Penta in. The Guns pulled Penta off the apron, attacking him. Then the Guns ran the Rey Fenix, putting him into the guardrail, shoulder first, right in the front row area. And that was pretty much the last we saw of Rey Fenix. So Penta was fighting on his own. This was again, if you watch No Mercy, this was the second consecutive night that we were watching a 4-way tag team match. This was for a title opportunity. Obviously, NXT No Mercy was for the tag titles, but we got to see a member of the match head to the back. Tony D at least made his way back for No Mercy and helped defend and retain those tag titles. Here, however, we never got to see Rey Fenix again after that. Penta was fighting on his own. So look, Austin Gunn attempted to pin Colton Gunn shortly thereafter, but the referee put a stop to that. Can't blame a guy for trying. He said, look, brother, you take this pin, we still end up as champions, but that's not the way this works. Or at least number one contenders to be a champion, right? So we saw a beautiful back and forth Northern Lights suplex combination by Matt Jackson of the Young Bucks and Hook. It was a good minute or two that they were going back and forth there. And the last couple minutes of this match were unbelievably chaotic, enjoyable though. The Bucks end up pinning Penta. The Young Bucks win, becoming the new number one contenders. And I just got to say this. I do like Matt and Nick Jackson. I get it. They're EVPs, an integral part of AEW being what it is today, right? The elite, all elite wrestling. Them, Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, uh, the Bucks and Cody Rhodes. They put together the first All-In show in 2018 in Chicago. Was at the Sears Center, selling 10,000 tickets, showing people it can be done, and which eventually led to Tony Khan having the faith and belief that, hey, if we all come together, we can do this. And look, here we are coming up this Wednesday, 4-year anniversary of AEW Dynamite's very first show that took place October 2nd, 2019, and that will be taking place October 4th, 2023. All that being said, though, I am very happy that the Young Bucks got a tag title opportunity. I don't know when it's going to be. Are they going to wait all the way to full gear in early or mid-November? Possibly. Will they fight before then? We'll see, going up against the likes of FTR. But it's going to be a lot as far as the Young Bucks. Every week, it seems like they're winning something, right? Take it back to 2 weeks ago, not even. Rampage Grand Slam. They defeat the Mogul Embassies, Gates of Agony, and Brian Cage for those 6-man Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships, becoming 2-time champions, winning it for the first time since 2017 with Hangman Adam Page, actually. And so they pin Brian Cage. Then you take it back to this past week's Dynamite, and for the number one contendership for Rey Fenix's AEW International Championship, which that match will take place at the anniversary show, 4-year anniversary show this Wednesday. Rey Fenix will be going up against Nick Jackson. So they just won these 6-man tag titles, and now he has an opportunity at a singles title. And here we are again. The Young Bucks win this fatal 4-way for a tag team, number one contenders tag team title opportunity. Again, title contention. So Nick Jackson, when all is said and done here, has the opportunity to hold 3 titles: the Ring of Honor 6-man, the international title, and of course the tag team titles if they are to dethrone FTR, if that's who is the champion when the time comes. And it's just kind of crazy as of late that it's Young Bucks, Young Bucks, Young Bucks. Enough is enough. I have no problem with one person holding more than one title, right? We've seen it numerous times with Kenny Omega. I've seen it with Pac, right? And I know the list goes on. In AEW or any other promotion for that matter, it's just becoming to be a lot. And it's kind of like spread the wealth, right? I think that OC and Hook would have been a viable option to get this opportunity. Me personally, I wanted to see the Guns win because it all comes around full circle. We're coming up on 6 months of FTR defeating the Guns for those very tag titles at the April 5th show of AEW Dynamite in Long Island. And I thought, hey, maybe a rematch. This time they're with the Bullet Club Gold. They got a little more momentum, a little more notoriety, a little more significance. They're a little more polished, right? So I figured this would be good to see them have a rematch, but that's not the case here. And so we're getting a rematch from AEW All In that we just saw 5-6 weeks ago, where FTR defeated the Young Bucks in about 22 minutes or so. And that was a very good match. I did think the Young Bucks were going to dethrone them at that show, and they didn't, and I'm grateful for that. But it seems like the month of September really picked up for the Bucks, as we can all see here. So that's just my 2 cents on that. And again, not crazy with the Young Bucks winning this, but as fate would have it, that's what we got. Speaking of the elite, we have Hangman Adam Page coming out, the 3rd member of those Ring of Honor 6-man tag team titles, along with the Young Bucks. We have Hangman going up against Swerve Strickland. Now, he was coming out with Prince Nana, the Mogul Embassy, and Brian Cage, the Gates of Agony, and so on. And Swerve, again, hailing from Washington. He's not like all the others in the sense they're from Seattle. He's actually from Tacoma, Washington. Nonetheless, still hometown guy wearing, it looked like Seattle Seahawks inspired trunks or ring gear, rather, pants. And these are 2 big boys. Hangman Adam Page has been a big dude the last few months. As I've mentioned in previous episodes of AEW reviews, Swerve Strickland has really bulked up. He looks good. He looks really good. And it looks like he didn't lose a step either. He bulked up, but he still moves great, as he did in the last few years. So early on in this match, they stayed in the ring. Eventually, Hangman took it to Swerve on the outside, dropping him on the ring apron back first. Again, a lot of people doing spots in this ring apron, man. Hardest part of the ring, brutal. Then into the barricade, followed by a moonsault from the top of the ring post on the Swerve. Soon after that, a suicide dive on the Swerve. Swerve was really getting beat up pretty good in the early going. Swerve trying to regroup in ring, not before long. A whole lot of back and forth offense between the two. Now Swerve hit Page with a backbreaker. Heads to the top rope, led to a stomp on the Hangman. Trying to get some momentum here. Hangman shortly after that hit Swerve with a deadeye onto the ring steps. That looked rough. I mean, that's never pleasant. Then we see a Swerve stomp on the Page on the ring apron. This comes immediately after Swerve stomped and hyperextended the right arm of Page just moments prior. It looked like it might affect his lariat, his main go-to at the end of a match. Then we get a 450 onto the right arm of Hangman, but couldn't keep Page down. Now, Hangman was still able to hit that buckshot lariat, even though he had that damage done to his arm earlier on, so he still got that done. But Prince Nana leaned in and placed Swerve's foot on the bottom rope, escaping a potential loss there, so that was huge. The referee was on his way to toss Prince Nana at that point, and as Hangman went for a second buckshot lariat, Swerve stopped him suddenly by hitting him with what looked to be Prince Nana's crown, but couldn't secure the pin. He was able to get away, hitting him with it, while, again, Prince Nana was distracting the referee. That's why he didn't catch Swerve pulling that tactic out. So Swerve eventually got the win. After 2 kicks to the head, followed by a JML driver, Swerve gets the victory, rightfully so. I said going into this show that Swerve needed this victory. It was a statement victory. He's been saying for weeks, Hangman Adam Page, if I got the opportunities you've got since your time with AEW, I'd be the first Black World Champion by now. He's not wrong. Swerve is looking to, make the best of every potential opportunity from here on out on that road to becoming world champion one day. And this was a very good match. It could have went either way. It honestly could have, but I am very happy and satisfied that Swerve got the victory. Never mind it being in his home state of Washington. That's the cherry on top, right? But being that he really hasn't been showcased a whole lot on premium live events, or pay-per-views rather. So I'm thinking of WWE premium live events, but on pay-per-views for AEW, especially, again, going back to, prior episodes, I've said, guys like Swerve, Andrade, Miro, these guys need to be, brought to the forefront more, because they are, not only are they great, but they could really propel this company and all be champions eventually, world champions. So good for Swerve. Hopefully this gives him the momentum he needs on that journey to becoming the best in the company one day. And to add to that, I know during the AEW Wrestledream media scrum, Chris Jericho, along with Kenny Omega, also said, look, Swerve is one of the notable up-and-coming guys in AEW that are well on their way to, getting where they need to be. Very impressed by his work. And again, Swerve could hang with the best of them. You could name anybody in that company, and Swerve will give you a fantastic match with them. So all the best to Swerve. And again, just looking forward to see what's next for him. Now, I think by this point, we're down to our final 5 matches. I know we still have a ways to go, but at least we're getting there. We have Blackpool Combat Club's Wheeler Yuta versus the Absolute One, Ricky Starkz. We have John Moxley from the Blackpool Combat Club again on commentary. Was glad to see him back. He was hysterical and informative at the very same time during the pre-show with Josh Barnett versus Claudio Castagnoli. And back yet again, hopefully not going to get fined for what he says, but I'm pretty sure he did. Going to jump right in the midst of this one. Mid-match, we see Big Bill, who's been aligned with Ricky Starkz for at least the last month or so, make his way down to the ringside area during this match. And Big Bill tried to interfere. No surprise there. But Wheeler Yuta threw him into the ring post. Actually, Big Bill threw himself, into the ring post. It was supposed to be Wheeler, but he threw himself full speed. I think that was the last we saw of Big Bill during that match. Match was all right. It wasn't a bad one. Both of these guys we know are great. Starkz and Wheeler Yuta, that's for sure. And a few moments after that, though, we see a spear followed by the Rochambeau by Ricky Starkz to get the win, as expected, at least from me. Ricky would get this win. We've seen him lose, not a lot lately, but he lost both the big matches to Bryan Danielson, I believe, and the match at where they main evented All Out, right, in Chicago, I'm pretty sure. And then, of course, we saw recently they had a Texas Death Match on AEW Dynamite, I believe it was. Or was it Collision? I forget. There's so much AEW programming and wrestling in general. I forget what was where, but again, Starkz lost those two, so I said there's no way he's losing to Wheeler Yuta on this Wrestledream pay-per-view. Nothing against Yuta, he's great. But look, Starkz was definitely due for a victory here, so I'm glad the right man won in this match. It was very enjoyable. And back-to-back, we got Moxley on commentary, because after that match, we got to see, for the third and final time, and for the third member of the Blackpool Combat Club, we got to see this dream match of sorts. Again, that was supposed to take place at Forbidden Door 2022. This is a battle to see who is the best technical wrestler on planet Earth, pretty much, as stated by the commentary team. Zack Sabre Jr. Versus Bryan Danielson. The American Dragon came out to his usual theme of Born for Greatness and not the Final Countdown, where I believe he's undefeated. He's 2-0 or 3-0 with that theme. So I said, uh-oh, he's not coming out to that. So maybe this one's a toss-up. Maybe he isn't going to win. I had Danielson winning this match. Obviously, it could go either way with these two. But I said he's not coming out to that definitive, Final Countdown where he went out and beat the likes of an Okada or even Ricky Starkz as of late. This was, first of all, we had Brian also wearing Seahawks gear, right? Being from the Washington area, much like we saw Swerve earlier in the night wear Seahawks-inspired gear. He had the green and blue on. And this was a technical masterpiece. It was worth the wait. We had to wait 15, 16 months. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it happen last year due to Brian's injury, but it was worth the wait. Zack Sabre had a good command of this match early on, but throughout, Brian never stayed down for long, that's for sure. Brian always had an answer, countered whatever Sabre applied throughout this match. At one point, when the later part of the match, when they were both down on the mat, trying to escape one another, essentially, Danielson surprisingly spit in the face of Sabre Jr., which, anybody you're going to spit in your face, you're not going to take that very kindly. So Sabre immediately, repeatedly slapped Brian in the face numerous times, again, while they had one another on the mat trying to escape each other's grip. These guys pulled out all the stops, seemingly every trick in the book, it looked like. We saw every technical move, so sound. They do it with such ease, too. I get it. They're veterans in the game, been doing it for years, but still, it's not easy, right? It's not easy. Not everybody could do this kind of stuff. Kudos to both of them. After back-to-back running knees, Bryan Danielson was able to get the job done. He got the victory, as I was hoping for. And regardless who won this, the fans won. I mean, this type of match isn't for everybody. I mean, if through and through, if you're a wrestling fan, I think you would have enjoyed this and appreciated it. Some people like a little more action, somebody going through a table, something, crazy going on. But this was not a whole lot of glitz and glam. This was mat wrestling at its finest, at its core. And this technical bout was very good. So again, the fans won this match, as well as Bryan Danielson getting the win. And Zack Sabre Jr. walked away saying, "We're not done." So we can expect a Danielson Sabre Jr. Part 2 at some point. Maybe that will be Forbidden Door. Next year, the third annual Forbidden Door, June of 2024, wherever that is to take place at. I don't believe they've announced what arena or what city they're going to be at just yet. In 22, it was Chicago. 23 was Toronto, and so we'll see. But I could see that rematch happening there. Now, afterwards, after this match, Aubrey Edwards, who refereed this, raised Bryan Danielson's hand in victory. After that, Danielson held up Aubrey Edwards' hand because she, too, again, being from the Seattle, Washington area, that was a very nice gesture on Bryan's behalf. Now, after this match, the internet knows everything, so that's where I go for a lot of my news, because even though it's full of ridiculous opinions and assumptions, there is some legitimacy to some of the things you see online from time to time. So Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com had put a picture-by-picture side-by-side, and he informed us that Aubrey Edwards was shown crying in the crowd during Daniel Bryan's retirement back in, I want to say, the spring of 2015, little after WrestleMania 31, where he won that Intercontinental Championship there and then had to retire due to all the issues he had going on as far as, the concussions and so on, and all the injuries he sustained. And there was actually a picture of Aubrey Edwards, informally known as the Key Arena, which is now the Climate Pledge Arena, the very same arena that this match took place. And it's her crying on the left, very emotional and distraught that Bryan had to call it a career in 2015. And now here she is, a little over 8 years later, in that very same arena, refereeing a match for Bryan Danielson in a winning effort nonetheless. So not only is it in both of their hometowns in the Washington area, but to be part of this match was just absolutely awesome. So it's not just about, hey, being back in Seattle, the two of us. The significance of this, I thought, was really, really cool. And what a very touching moment. So that was good to see. Good for Aubrey Edwards, man. And I really like to see that kind of stuff, with whether it's referees and officials. And we've seen a lot of stuff from another female referee in WWE, Jessica Carr. She so many times she's posted pictures with talent when she was younger at meet and greets. And now she's like, I'm in the ring with them now. Now I'm calling now I'm calling the matches or officiating their matches. So just truly remarkable and good to see. So as good as Danielson Sabre Jr. was, and it was definitely my top 3 of matches for the night that I was looking forward to, this next match, as I've mentioned many times throughout the course of this past week, was the match I was most looking forward to, the star power, the revenge we wanted to see them get. And we got to see Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega, along with Kota Ibushi, versus the Don Callis family of Konosuke Takeshita, Sammy Guevara, and Will Ospreay. Now, it was said that Omega is 0-4 at pay-per-views since being betrayed by Don Callis, which I didn't even realize at that point. And Ospreay and Omega had two of the best ring gear that I saw all night, by the way, too. Their pants were just looking phenomenal. Those two are always very sharp with the ring gear, by the way. And so these two have crossed paths quite a bit. What was it? Wrestle Kingdom 17, January 4th, at the Tokyo Dome in Japan, where Omega got that first win over Ospreay, and then Forbidden Door that took place this past June, where Ospreay got his revenge on Kenny Omega, defeating him there in Toronto. And here they are yet again, crossing paths. And this match was something, as I said, that I was not only most anticipating for Wrestledream, but something that I thought would actually live up to the hype. You know, sometimes we get disappointed. Not saying I was disappointed by any of this card yet, but I said there's no way this could not live up to the expectations, to what we saw on paper. So we had a mix of past, present, and future wrestlers here that we got to see. And fast forwarding to later on in this match, we see a Snapdragon from Omega to Ospreay, cutter from Guevara to Omega. Ospreay powerbombed Ibushi. Now, Guevara hit Jericho with a code breaker, but Jericho didn't even get a 1 count. He said, "How dare you? Disrespectful, using my move on me. Not happening." But shortly thereafter, it was 1-on-3. They're beating the hell out of Jericho. His teammates weren't up and at him yet. Ibushi and Omega still nursing injury, getting beat down by the Don Callis family. His teammates finally get up. Omega, Ibushi, everyone's dropping to the mat, just in sheer exhaustion at this point. From going back and forth. Now we have Ospreay holding on to Aubrey Edwards while Jericho was pinning Guevara. By the time Aubrey got there, it was too late. Then we see, of course, the evil, conniving Don Callis leaned over the ropes while Jericho was about to put Guevara in the walls of Jericho. He hits Jericho with the bat. I'm pretty sure it might have been the bat that Jericho usually comes out with, right? Leading to the eventual pin by Sammy Guevara and getting the win for the Don Callis family. Ironic, as we come up this Wednesday on the 4-year anniversary of AEW Dynamite. It all started with the Inner Circle, Chris Jericho's group, right? He had Santana, Ortiz, and Jake Hager, and Sammy Guevara. And here we are. Sammy Guevara, not only did he use one of Jericho's moves on him, but he gets the pin and the win over Chris Jericho. So I'm sure we haven't seen the end of, at minimum, Chris Jericho versus Guevara. I'm sure we'll get a rematch at some point in time. As a matter of fact, come to think of it, at the media scrum, while Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega were up there, I remember Tony Khan saying that there will be a tag team match on the 4-year anniversary show of AEW Dynamite this Wednesday, and it will be Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, the Golden Jets, as they refer to themselves now, going up against the team of Konosuke Takeshita and Sammy Guevara. So that should be a very good one. Looking forward to that tag team match. That card is really shaping up to be a very good show. Again, 4-year anniversary of AEW Dynamite. Why not do it big? So now as we make our way to the last two matches of the night, I don't want to say the crowd was out of it, but they are noticeably winding down because it's been a long night, right? And very exciting at that, especially after this 6-man tag match, which emotions were high and low all throughout. So we have this AEW World Tag Team Championship match, Aussie Open, going up against the champions FTR. And as we found out earlier in the night, the winners will face the new #1 contenders, Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, at some point in time. It hasn't been mentioned when that match will take place. These guys were in pain right from the beginning. Several brutal spots for both teams involved. Cash Wheeler took some really rough hits early on as well, more than anybody probably. And I don't know how any of them were able to kick out. It was looking very, very tough. These are just two aggressive teams. I mean, Aussie Open is as aggressive as it gets. And FTR, they're no slouches either. They could hang with the best of them. And they're so versatile as well. Aussie Open, vicious combination. And FTR, again, as I said, they can adjust anybody. We're fast forwarding to the finish of this one. We see a pile driver on the apron to Mark Davis of Aussie Open from Dax Harwood. And Kyle Fletcher was then tossed by Dax from the top rope to Cash Wheeler, where Fletcher was on the receiving end of a super shatter machine for the win, and still AEW World Tag Team Champions. I did see FTR coming out, retaining their titles here. And again, it looks like we're getting yet again another rematch of FTR and the Young Bucks. I don't want to say we ever get tired of it, much like if you're a big fan of WWE or tag team division for years, it felt like we just saw the New Day versus the Usos versus the New Day. And, you know, they would trade back and forth victories and tag titles and so on. That's why they're both multi-time tag team champions for sure. And it looks like the next time the Young Bucks do meet FTR, it looks like they will avenge their loss at All In and win those AEW tag titles for, I want to say, the third time. I believe they're already two-time tag champs, the Young Bucks, much like FTR. So we'll see where that leads. But this was a very good match. Again, the crowd, I want to say, was into it, but they were definitely a little exhausted. And also knowing they have one match left, being the main event, 2 out of 3 falls match between TNT champion Christian Cage and Darby Allin. They were trying to keep their excitement there for the hometown guy, Darby Allin, as well. Seemed like everybody was the hometown guy at some point throughout the course of this Wrestledream pay-per-view. So without further ado, let's get into that. But again, FTR, Young Bucks, it should be a good one whenever they meet. But here we are, main event. Ladies and gentlemen, we finally got to the last match here. Again, 2 out of 3 falls match for that TNT Championship that Christian Cage has held for the better part of a week now. Well, actually, he's held it for months, literally, but it actually became his when he won that triple threat match last week on AEW Collision when he defeated his very own, partner, Luchasaurus, for that title. And of course, defeating his opponent that he was facing on this very night, Darby Allin. So Christian Cage made his way out first, although it was his decision as champion to come out first. That was all him. Usually, of course, the competitor, the opponent, the challenger would come out first in this scenario, but that was not the case. Going up against two-time TNT champion Darby Allin, I didn't see how it happened, but Darby Allin was bleeding from his left cheek before this match even started. Before the bell rang, he was bleeding. Even he looked pretty surprised that he was bleeding before the in-ring introductions even took place. So the way this shook up is the first fall went to Darby Allin. He put Christian's turtleneck over his head and rolled him up for the pin. Very well executed. I'm surprised nobody has done that yet, at least that I could recount. Maybe somebody has, but I don't remember them successfully getting a pin on Christian while using his turtleneck. But that was that. So here we go. Christian Cage approached Nick Wayne's mom during this match, who was still ringside, and he asked for her to plant a kiss on his cheek, as it looked like she might, or that she was maybe thinking about it. She threw her drink at his face. Now, this was followed by Darby Allin looking like he shot out of a cannon immediately after this drink was thrown in Christian Cage's face. Suicide dive type of deal right out to Christian Cage, knocking him to the ground. But Christian dropped Darby Allin onto the ring steps shortly thereafter. He proceeded to pretty much body slam him from the ring apron onto the ring steps. This was a brutal spot. This was a spot that kept him down for quite some time, for minutes really. Fall 2 resorted in a countout and went to Christian, making it 1 apiece. But during this time, the medical team went to check on Darby, potentially putting him on a stretcher. It really looked like he hurt his head and neck very bad as it bounced on the bottom of that first step. If you had seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I can't really describe it any better other than saying it looked like it was enough not only to end one's night or to end one's match, but could really end your career. And Darby Allin, as good as he is, because he is super talented, at 30 years old, I believe, he's really got to be careful, man, because he has a very promising future and career ahead of him. But if he continues to do spots like this, I appreciate you being a daredevil, but it's getting to the point now where you can not only be risking your career, but risking your life in general, honestly. So anyway, medical team goes and checks on him. During this whole time, Christian goes and unties the whole ring skirt, ends up pulling up the mat, the foam. All you see is the boards underneath, the wood beneath is very visible on at least half the ring. So if you didn't know what a wrestling ring looks like, underneath it all, beneath the canvas, you got to see a good look of what a wrestling ring really entails. So suddenly, Christian climbs up top turnbuckle, and hits Darby with a frog splash while he's on the stretcher. He was just put on that stretcher, looked like he was about to make his way out up the aisleway, and Christian said, "Not so fast." So that was an extreme spot. Then shortly thereafter, a kill switch. As they got back in the ring, Christian hit him with a kill switch on the exposed wood. Somehow, Darby Allin kicked out. The guy is unstoppable. He just would not stay down. We hear a huge "Let's Go Darby" chant break out in the crowd, trying to get their hometown guy back into this one. Again, tied at 1 apiece. Next fall will win to become TNT champion. And at this point, Christian meant to spear Darby. Accidentally ends up spearing the referee as Darby got out of the way just in time. We see a low blow from Christian to Darby Allin. And then Nick Wayne, out of nowhere, took Christian's title belt. He took the TNT Championship. He was in the corner, looking like he was cocking it back to strike Darby Allin in a matter of moments. Nick Wayne took that title out of his hands. He makes his way into the ring. And I mentioned this on a previous episode. It might have been the most recent Dynamite review I did. But I said, look, there is going to be a point in time where Nick Wayne is going to turn on Darby Allin. We're going to find out as time goes on in the coming week or two why he did it, why he aligned himself with Christian Cage. I think a big part of it had to do with Darby Allin accepting AR Fox back from that short stint as heel after joining the Mogul Embassy, but then getting booted from Swerve Strickland a few weeks after AR Fox had joined Swerve Strickland at Nick Wayne's property in the ring, beating up Nick Wayne, leaving him battered and bloodied, I believe breaking a photo of his late father, him and his father. And there was a lot of emotional ties there where I feel like Nick Wayne's going to be like, I cannot believe you accepted him back after all he did to me. I'm sure that's going to tie in and be part of the whole story as to why he joined Christian. So what happened here, Nick Wayne turns on Darby. He had that championship title. He hits Darby Allin with it. And Nick's mother, was still ringside in complete shock as to why her son would do this to Darby Allin, who means so much to Nick and his family. 1, 2, 3, the match was over. So, this heel turn, I'm very curious to see what comes of it. I know we're obviously going to get a Nick Wayne, Darby Allin feud coming from it in the very near future. Now, immediately following this match, we had a 2-on-1 attack. Nick Wayne and TNT champion Christian Cage taking it to Darby Allin. He was defenseless, completely helpless at this point. Thankfully, Sting makes his way out to the ring, evening the odds. It wasn't for long, though. Luchasaurus trailed behind him. Again, the numbers advantage for Christian and company. 3-on-2. Luchasaurus, Christian Cage, Nick Wayne taking it to Darby and Sting. And it was getting ugly for a while. Now, as soon as Christian was about to hit Sting with the concerto, the lights went out. And there had been rumors for days, even maybe weeks now, that a certain somebody was going to make his way around All Elite Wrestling. Come to find out, his contract was up October 1st with WWE, and that he was readily available to take his talents wherever he'd like. That's what ended up happening. We see on the screen after the lights went out, the video is shown on the monitor of a car driving, making its way past the words Rated R. Rated R Superstar, maybe. On the street again, and suddenly, after that video package, the lights came back on, and a few moments after that, Metalingus hit. He's here. Edge, after 25 plus years in WWE, has arrived in AEW. Now, he might not be called Edge anymore. That's WWE specific, but he was able to keep the Rated R Superstar part of it legally. So we see the Rated R Superstar, Adam Copeland, arrive in AEW. There was a whole bunch of holy shit chants that followed that, rightfully so. He made his way to the ring, surrounded by Christian Cage, longtime friend, and Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne. Christian, obviously confused about everything. Kind of like, what are you doing here? And in hopes that Adam Copeland was aligning with the three of them to go 4-on-1 or 4-on-2 against Darby Allin and Sting at this moment in time. Adam is then handed a steel chair to help finish taking care of Darby Allin, putting him out of his misery, so to speak. Edge, or Adam Copeland, I'm just going to call him Edge, for the time being, at least, through this review. Edge takes the chair, turns to Nick Wayne, hits him with it. He follows up by tossing the chair at Luchasaurus while it looked like he was about to chase Christian outside of the ring, but Christian escaped with his TNT Championship, making it up the ramp area, the walkway, in disbelief as to what's happening. But following that, Edge spears Luchasaurus onto the steel chair, then goes and spears Nick Wayne. Of course, like I said, Christian made his way out, and afterwards, Darby Allin extended his hand. Him and Edge shake hands. Same goes for Sting. He extends his hand to Edge, and Sting and Edge shake hands as well. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe this is the first time on television itself, in any way or form in pro wrestling, that Sting and Edge have been in the same ring. Not wrestling, at least yet. Maybe they'll have a match at some point in time just to say they did it. But Sting and Edge having a moment to conclude AEW Wrestledream, and that's exactly what it felt like, a dream. I mean, Sting in his early to mid 60s, Edge still doing his thing. I believe was the early 50s or so, late 40s, and seeing the two of them in the ring, just having a moment, Sting and Edge, in a company other than WWE, was just very surreal. But what a wild finish to the conclusion of AEW Wrestledream. What a great show. Great seeing Adam Copeland in All Elite Wrestling. I really think he is going to have some dream matches taking place in the coming months. We don't know the specifics of his deal yet. I don't believe if it's a 1-year deal, is it a 3-year deal? But nonetheless, I think it's going to be great to see him. He is full-time there. It's not going to be some part-time gig. So that was very exciting to see. A great weekend overall for professional wrestling. Let's be honest. We got AEW Collision, their regularly scheduled show on Saturday night. Of course, NXT held No Mercy Saturday night as well. So we got our fill of wrestling just Saturday night into itself. And then to be hit with this Sunday night, a great show top to bottom, and ending with the emerging of the Rated R Superstar to AEW. Huge. So it's very good to see. Happy for Adam Copeland. I know this is something he's wanted to do before he retires, join his best friend there. I'm sure if he was able to have it his way, if Christian was still with WWE, he would have legitimately finished with the only major company he was ever with. As fate would have it, he made his way over to AEW. Christian has thrived there, specifically the last year plus since turning heel. He's been on the role of a lifetime, but his last couple of years in general have been very good. TNT champion. He even went over to Impact for a little bit. He won that Impact World Championship early on when he first signed with AEW, making his way over to Impact when they had that little relationship initially. And I think this is just really great for pro wrestling as a whole. I'm excited to see what's next for Edge. Whether he attains gold or not, I think that's besides the point. If he wins titles there, that is the cherry on top. But honestly, see him go up against the likes of Kenny Omega, Jay White, and so on, so many other opportunities, is exciting to see in matches we haven't seen yet. We thought you can only see those kind of things in a video game or literally dream about them and what if. And he's going to, he wants to leave no stone unturned before he calls it quits or retires fully, right? So I think we're going to see some exciting times for him. I think we're going to see, Edge and Christian go up against one another, and hopefully before they ride off into the sunset, hopefully at least one reign as tag team champions in AEW, and I think that will pretty much call it a career. So Tony Khan tweeted out shortly after this that this Wednesday, a new era in AEW begins at the 4th anniversary of AEW Dynamite this Wednesday night. For the first time ever on AEW TV, we'll hear from the Rated R Superstar Adam Copeland, and it was also said during the media scrum that he will also be on this week's edition of AEW Collision. So he's making the rounds. Again, the Rated R Superstar Adam Copeland is his official name in AEW, and I couldn't be more excited for him. The MJF went on to say on Twitter, stop posting the photo. And much like we saw MJF with many a present-day wrestler that's still, doing his thing, whether it was in the Attitude Era or in the early to mid-2000s, there is a picture of Edge with an MJF that looks like he couldn't be more than 10 years old here, 10, 11 years old, at a meet and greet with Edge, and everybody was kind of teasing him with that. Again, a dream match for MJF. I don't know if that's necessarily a dream match for Edge per se. Maybe it is. But, MJF, another wrestler that he's probably looked up to over the years growing up, one of the many reasons he wants to be where he's at today because of a guy like that, and getting the chance to stand across from him in the ring is something that's got to be getting him very excited. As far as Edge is concerned, again, full-time talent, and he will be there every week, he claims. Also, Edge goes on to say, this is all I ever wanted to do, and this feels like an opportunity to come in, and not just come in every 3 months, pretty much as he was with WWE the last year or two. He says, I'm going to be there every week. I'm a full-time guy. I want to do that for as long as that is possible. I feel that's how I can help the most. And during the media scrum, Adam Copeland also dropped a few names that he would like to have some matches with while in AEW. He said this is not the entirety of the list, but some that just come off the top, with the likes of Samoa Joe, Sting, Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega, Claudio Castagnoli, Swerve Strickland, even Nick Wayne, that he'd like to face his opponents in the near future. So I'm sure there's many others that we will see and that he would like to go up against that were not named. But that's just, I'm glad to see that, he's already thinking ahead. And I know he's probably been thinking of this for months when he was making his decision. Hey, do I re-sign and finish my career with WWE? Which he was presented that opportunity, as he said during his last match with WWE, August 18th, I want to say it was, versus Sheamus on SmackDown in his hometown of Toronto, or go to All Elite Wrestling and go have all these stream matches, have a little more liberty, as most people do in AEW, opposed to being with WWE. They're a little more, tighter with things there, whether it's creatively and such. And AEW, they kind of allow you a little more breathing room, to say the least. So I think this is good, especially for somebody at his stage of his career. And also shortly after Adam Copeland debuted with AEW on Wrestledream, his wife, Beth Phoenix, put up a post on Twitter, and it seems to be a piece of paper written in pen or marker that was left on the refrigerator. And it's Edge wrote B, for Beth, obviously, heading to walk the dog, be back in a few, Adam. And the cool thing about this is the words walk, be, and few fell immediately under one another, leading to the A in walk, the E in be, and the W in few aligning as AEW, obviously referencing his AEW debut, which was a cute note, literally, that he had left her. So that was pretty cool. So before I wrap up my review of AEW Wrestledream, which was fantastic, if you saw it and even just hearing about it, great show, start to finish. A few hours later, I'm sure after the adrenaline wore off for Adam Copeland, he went on Twitter around 2 a.m. and he writes, "From the desk of, as some of you may now know, I'm no longer with WWE. My new home is AEW. I'm excited. Whole new roster, some familiar faces that I wanted to work with again, and a whole set of first ever matches. New challenges, and if you've followed my career, you know that's what I've always been driven by. But first and foremost, I want to address my 25 years with WWE. I love WWE and appreciate everything the company did for me. Always have, always will. They put me on the map, gave me amazing opportunities, and through hard work on both ends, I've been supplied with a wonderful life. Hell, WWE helped me meet the woman I'd start my family with. Sometimes relationships just grow apart, and I feel that WWE and I have just outgrown each other. I wanted to do more. They didn't have much more for me to do, simple as that, and that's okay. I'll still be watching and still be supporting all of my friends there. I don't buy into this odd mentality of one company or the other. It's weird. If you took offense to that, take a walk, get some fresh air, and soak up some sunshine. It's wrestling. An amazing gig, but still, it's wrestling. Relax. It's supposed to be fun. And it's just a segment of the fans, not most fans, and definitely not the performers. Within the industry, we all know that more choices is better for everyone and pushes us all to be better. As a wrestling fan, which I still am, it's exciting that there's viable companies providing wrestling on national and worldwide platforms. If you're actually a fan of wrestling and not acronyms, that should make you happy too. I guess what I'm trying to say is this. If you've appreciated my work, you still can, no matter what the initials are, because I'll still be busting my ass every time I'm out there. This ride isn't over just yet. Just try to have fun like it should be, because trust me, I'll be having fun every time I'm out there in an AEW ring. Let's go." Again, that is what he tweeted out around 2 a.m. on Monday morning. So shout out to Edge, or Adam Copeland. That was, first of all, I love him from the standpoint of a wrestler, and I love the amazing person that he is. He leaves it all out there on the forefront. He's very transparent with the fans. And I think he didn't have to do that. He really didn't. But he explained himself as much as he would, as much as he could, and he's willing to do, and said, look, for that small percentage of fans that are strictly WWE to the death, that hate to see anybody succeed elsewhere or make fun of the company or make fun of the performer, bottom line is this. If you're making fun of an Edge or any other wrestler, Sasha, formerly known as Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné doing her thing in New Japan Wrestling, and all these other promotions, you see people leave WWE. Things happen. And they succeed somewhere else, and people hate to see it because it's not under the WWE umbrella. Then you are not a fan of these wrestlers. You never were. You were only a fan of anything WWE provides. And I say that without taking anything away from WWE. WWE is what I grew up on since the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, I would watch WCW from time to time. Nitro came on an hour before Raw, so why the hell not? There was a lot of talent over there too, a lot of good storylines too. But at the very same time, I appreciate other things other than WWE. And I think that certain percentage, you're never going to change their mind. But I think it's awesome that he put that out there and pretty much saying me and WWE outgrew one another. I had a great, return run for the better part of 3.5 years. He made it to 4 WrestleManias, right? I think he won most of the matches. 36 going up against Randy Orton. I believe he won that. 37, him and Bryan Danielson went up against Roman Reigns. Of course, they lost that. 38, going up against AJ Styles, winning that due to the help of Damian Priest, right, forming the Judgment Day. And 39, where he had that crazy, what was it, a Hell in a Cell type of match with the Demon King, Finn Balor, and I believe he beat Balor there. Either or, regardless who won or lost those matches, he had 4 consecutive WrestleManias since he returned, and winning the Royal Rumble in 21, returning at the Rumble the year prior in 20, which the fans were ecstatic for. And he made the most of this return to WWE. He's doing it on his terms, like it or not, folks. And he's going to go over to AEW. Well, he's there now, and he's going to show you what he's made of before he hangs it up, whether it's 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, we'll see. He's going to have singles bouts. He's going to have tag team bouts. I'm sure at some point he's more likely to have tag gold rather than singles gold. But either way, he will get gold in the process. And again, I think it just needs to be appreciated, right? I think you need to appreciate these talents, regardless who they wrestle for, while they're here and capable and able, right? So good on Adam Copeland. Glad he went with where he feels is best for him right now. He is not finished. He has more matches to have, more feuds to have. And he didn't see that, continuing in WWE. WWE didn't see him in a maximized role at this point in time. And that's okay. Like he said, All Elite Wrestling is a great option. And he's going to have many great feuds in the coming weeks, months, and potentially even years. So I think I'd like to end with that. I really would. That was a great AEW Wrestledream show. Hopefully they continue to do this this honorary show for Antonio Inoki annually in every October, right? It doesn't have to be this happened to fall on a Sunday, of course, a year to his passing, I believe it was. But I think every October, maybe the first Sunday in October, would be a nice gesture to do this show because the first one was amazing. And I think I'd like to see many more Wrestledreams added to this pay-per-view schedule yearly. So that's my review of AEW Wrestledream, everybody. As always, thank you for tuning in to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I'm your host, Pat Dineen, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.